The New Zealand Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, was asked to define a woman, and he said, well, people identify for themselves. He couldn't answer, and it was excruciating to watch, to be honest with you.
I've reflected on that interview quite a lot since then, because it did, I could have answered that question a lot better than I did.
How would you answer it now then? What is a woman?
Well, I'd answer ultimately with the same thing. A woman is someone who regards themselves as a woman.
And this has been a sort of hot potato question for world leaders. What is a woman, Prime Minister?
An adult female.
How difficult was that to answer?
Not too hard. I was asked during the campaign, actually.
In a sentence, how do you define a woman, Mr. Albanese?
An adult female.
An adult female?
Yeah.
Because there's been a degree of confusion around that issue, so good to get your clarity on that.
I don't think it's confusing.
Well, that's good to hear.
How do you and how does this government define a woman?
To be honest, Sean, that question's come slightly out of left field for me. Biology, sex, gender, people define themselves, people define their own genders.
Keir Starmer has said that he believes 99.9% of women do not have penises. And I know it's a strange thing for him to say, but given recent events in New Zealand, I'd ask again, how do you define what a woman is?
Well, I think as I've just indicated, I wasn't expecting that question, so it's not something that I've, pre-formulated an answer on. But in terms of gender identity, I think people define their gender identity for themselves.
That's self-identification.
Yes.
What about, if you like, an official or a wider societal sense?
Again, I think we have rules in place now. If someone wants to change their gender on their birth certificate, for example, there's a process that they go through in order to do that. I haven't got the process chapter and verse in front of me, but it's available. Anybody can look it up and see what that process is.
Would you support or oppose New Zealand First Bill to give this legal definition to the word woman and replace the current law which revolves around self-identification?
It is highly unlikely the Labour Party would support it. I think we've had a long and proud tradition of empowering people to be who they are, to respect people's individual identities, and I think that's highly unlikely to change.
And you think then that by defining a woman as a biological woman, that is an attack on the trans community?
Well, of course it is.